Coming up next on Hands on Windows, we're going to take a look at one of the latest folding PCs and try to figure out if folding PCs are the future of the platform.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hands on Windows. I'm Paul Thurrott, and I am in a very non-standards configuration here. I had spent much of today trying to figure out something that would work for this and failed. So this is what we got. Apologize for that. But this will be the first, arguably truly hands-on episode of Hands on Windows, because today we're going to take a look at the Lenovo X1 Fold 16, which is the second generation Lenovo folding PC, and try to figure out if folding PCs have a place in this world. We talked about AI PCs recently. There's no reason we're not going to see folding PCs that have AI functionality built into them at some point. But for today, what we have is this. So Lenovo, I think it was about 3 years ago, released the world's first foldable PC, the X1 Fold. That was a 13.3-inch screen, 2K, 4.3 aspect ratio, et cetera, et cetera. Some weird limitations to that device. It had a very strange processor, which was one of Intel's first hybrid architecture chips, as I recall. It was limited to 8 gigs of RAM, which even back then was terrible. It only had USB-C ports, not Thunderbolts. There was no Windows Hello of any kind. The keyboard that it came with was too small. It wasn't a full-size keyboard, so you can type on it very well. And of course, it was very expensive, right? $2,500 to about $3,000. So flash forward a couple of years, and HP has come out with a 17-inch folding PC, the Spectre Foldable PC, which is fantastic, but one configuration, $5,000, not great. So Lenovo now is back with this second-gen device. And so in this form that you see here, this is a bit like a book. It's 2.2 pounds. It seems like it might be okay, in this configuration. But the truth is, there are definitely some pros and cons here, right? So let me just show you kind of what this comes with. The things you can't see here are, well, I'll show you the little charging cable. That's so you can get from the keyboard to the computer if you need to charge the keyboard, which is Bluetooth only or obviously wired, but doesn't do a magnetic charge type of thing like the HP does. There is a power supply. It's a standard 65 watt power supply. And then there's the stuff, right? So I'll start with the kind of the weird bit here, which is that the keyboard and a stand are together and they kind of hold on magnetically to this. And this is one of the central problems with folding PCs today. There's a bunch of stuff, right? And so these are two separate things. Like I said, Bluetooth keyboards got the 3.3 pointing system, right? So you get track point, like we see on Lenovo ThinkPads, a touchpad, and then a full-size keyboard. Not a, it's not humongous, but it is full-size, better than before. And then the stand, which is separate. And again, this is the thing I don't really like, is the separateness of it is unfortunately kind of wobbly and not necessarily ideal. And then, of course, the main piece is the computer itself, right? So this is a 16.3-inch OLED display. It's gorgeous. I don't know if you can tell how gorgeous it is on the camera. And you get all the Windows 10 or 11, touch and pen capabilities you would expect. There's also a smart pen that comes with this. So here's the trick with this device. You have to put all this stuff together, right? And so you can put this on the stand like you would with the HP foldable PC, and it falls off. And this is the problem. So this stand to me is the Achilles heel here right now. I want this thing to be upright pretty much, not way tilted back. But if you put it too upright like I want it, it falls over all the time. So I'm going to try that again. This is an interesting real world example of the problem that I faced with it anyway. So I'll put it back maybe a little further this time, put it in the stand better. So the keyboard is pretty good, not great, pretty good. It magnetically latches onto this if you want to use this as kind of a one-piece thing, even though it's really a three-piece thing. And, the screen can lean onto it and get a little bit of stability that way. And that's pretty good. You can also, of course, because it's Bluetooth, just separate this out. So this might be, further back and you would be over here typing away. The big advantage of this device over the HP in my opinion, is something I always wanted on the HP, which is that you can also use this in portrait mode. So you just flip this thing around. And again, it's just getting this to sit on this is a constant problem. I found that you can also kind of tilt the top forward, which is very unusual for a display, obviously, but it's interesting because you can, I'll show this in a bit, but you can snap apps in this portrait mode as well, which is something we don't typically do a lot of in Windows on a normal display, but it is possible. A couple of other compromises here because this is going to be the problem, especially in the short term. In this normal, and I've actually got it upside down, not that you could tell from there, but in this normal landscape aspect ratio or form, the webcam is over here on the left, right? And so this is a problem we see in tablets of all kinds. Historically with Windows, though, that would be up here somewhere. Of course, the hinge is there. You could put it to one side or the other, but they chose to put it over here. So actually, the only time that that's where you want it is when it's in portrait mode, and then it's normal. And if you were to turn that camera on, you see it is shifted over to a side. The buttons are kind of hard to figure out. The way I know that this is correct, if you will, for being up, down, or whatever, is that, well, because the webcam, honestly, that's what I look for now. It's supposed to be over here, but the power button is up here, and the volume rockers are on that side. Depending on the configuration, including this correct landscape orientation, this actually blocks one of the ports. There's a port down here. There are 3 USB-C ports, 2 are Thunderbolt 4. So that's an improvement over the first gen. It's not super clear which is which. And I don't have the best vision in the world, but if I can see that has a Thunderbolt little insignia on it. So I think it's the bottom one that's probably the USB C and not Thunderbolt. The other one's over here on the side. So, okay. If you can put up with some of the weirdnesses, does this make any sense at all? I would say, yeah, in some ways, yes, right? You can cart this thing around 2.2 pounds. That's incredibly light. I would say a typical 13 to 14 inch Ultrabook these days is about 3 pounds. This is a 16.3 inch screen when it's open. It also supports all of those kind of modes. So depending on where you are and what you're doing, you might be able to use it in a method that is more efficient for that space, right? So you can do things like fold it this way. So it's like a typical clamshell laptop. In this configuration, you can use it without the keyboard. You can get the on-screen keyboard going. And, depending on what you're doing, that might make sense. You can put the keyboard on top of it and it clips in magnetically. Like I said, doesn't charge in this capacity. I should probably turn it on too. I don't believe it was on, but let me check. Yep, now that's on. So this will stay stable. The screen shifts so that you only see this part. There's nothing on underneath, right? Which is a problem we've seen with other folding and dual screen devices in the past. So that's good. They got that bit right. This screen is tiny, right? This is, I should probably look in to see exactly what it is, but it's a very low resolution screen, and you run into an issue where you can't see all of the on-screen elements of a window or a dialog box or whatever, and you have to kind of go by feel. If I tab over a couple of times in editor, maybe that will close it, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But at least this is available. So if you're in a kind of a cramped airline seat, it would work, I suppose. Obviously, you can use it like a gigantic tablet in portrait or landscape orientation. I find this awkward. I have large hands and I'm not particularly weak, but it's a big device, right? You can also just do all the the portrait or landscape with the stand kind of thing. I feel strongly that what will put this device over the top in the future will be some kind of a kickstand, right? In the HP's case, the kickstand only works in landscape orientation, right? Maybe there's a need for 2. Maybe there's some kind of a swivel, something. It's kind of hard to say. But it's very interesting, I guess is the way I would say it. And as prices kind of come down, and if some of these awkwardness issues could go away, it becomes more and more interesting. Here I'm in Mexico City as I record this. I've got this docked usually to an external display, and that introduces some interesting scenarios too. And actually, since I mentioned it, I should show, if I open a window here, obviously I can drag it around to get the snap guides to appear right up here. And, again, something I wouldn't typically do back home or on a normal computer, I should say, is snap these this way, but this is a possibility, right? If I could figure out how to work the mouse, it would be anyway. So you can do this kind of thing where they're tiled. These are the same app, but you could do two separate apps, obviously. I've always, as a writer, I've always been kind of fascinated by the idea of using Microsoft Word in this format, right? It's very much like a page. And that's especially good if you have a second screen where you can have whatever you're working off of kind of next to it. Lenovo had to build in their own special software to accommodate some of the weirdness of this thing, right? And so in addition to the standard snap, which is up here, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't see it very well, actually. I'm sorry, but there's a little Lenovo icon here. And Lenovo provides their own version of Snap so that you can use kind of the unique characteristics of this display to do other layouts that aren't typically possible with Snap. That's more obvious in portrait mode than it is in landscape mode. So I don't know what to say. It's nice being able to be definitive about something. I wish I could be definitive about this. I do feel strongly that folding displays are the future, honestly, of all devices. And there'll be variants of this over time where there'll be rollable displays or pull-out displays and that kind of thing. But the dream here that this somewhat does meet is that you can carry around something incredibly light and small. And then when you need it to be big, it is, right? And that's the same deal with a folding phone. When you think about it, it's a phone most of the time, but you want to do some media, you want to get Google Maps going. Maybe you're putting it in your car, using it there. You get the bigger display and it's nice. I just feel like this particular PC, still a few too many compromises, big advantage over the original one, but still not necessarily perfect. So maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I had hopes for a better demo today. I apologize. This isn't fantastic. I am on the road, so I don't have everything I need with me, but not that it would have mattered because technology tends to fail me when I least expect it to or want it to. So I hope this made sense the way that we did this. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another video. We post new hands-on Windows videos every Thursday. You can learn more at the TWiT website at twit.tv/HOW. Thank you. See you again.